Good day, everyone, and welcome once again to the Quantum Cafe and the Interstellar Lounge with your host here, the Cosmic Messenger, aka Derek Pennett, Reiki Master Teacher, Light Body Technician, and Metaphysical Activator. I provide full spectrum healing services and I teach lots and do workshops and various events where I promote and bring in all of the multidimensional wisdoms. Basically, to sum it up, I teach multidimensional living and the quantum mechanics of ascension and working with the spiritual, mental, physical, emotional bodies and all of the wild things that happen in that mix. So if you've landed here for the first time or you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. And this is, just to give a quick summary, this is a database, this is a metaphysical hub where we bring in all the wildest topics that have to do with everything outside of the 3D realm. We include that as well, of course, but this is all about the mystical happenings, from the subtle bodies to the 12 stages of the DNA, activating our cellular networks, having different timeline jumping or teleportation. There is nothing here that is off limits. And so we bring it in to a cohesive whole so that we can understand the wisdoms and dissect them a little bit deeper so we can go forth and have a metaphysical language that we can work with, use, and also come for information and possibly be a catalyst for full spectrum healing, okay? So recently we had the 8/8 Lions Gate portal. If you're not familiar with it, that's on August 8th, and that comes around on a yearly solar cycle. So basically on 8/8, the Sun, Earth, the Pyramids of Giza, right? The Sun, Earth, Pyramids of Giza, and Sirius, they all line up to create a sacred gateway of alignment. They're perfectly in line, and this brings in a massive influx of 12th dimensional energy. Those are the dimensions that we're working with while we're incarnating in this realm of the galaxy, the Milky Way, and the universe that we reside in. And yes, it's a multiverse. And so this brings in a whole amount of transdimensional energy, and bring in Leo too, right? Because we're in that season, the archetype, as well as the lion as well too, for that cosmic courage, that interdimensional strength, and bringing in all of that vitality for us to stand big, bold, and bright. And prior to them building a dam in Egypt in the 1970s, I believe, in linear-based time, the Great Flood, you look for the information and it's all over the place, but between May and August, there's an influx of water that would come into the Nile River, right? And having this sacred alignment and all of the seeds coming to fruition and all of the growth, right? It's transdimensional. It's also letting us know that there's a gateway coming for the waters to increase, and then the harvesting that comes after that, right? As well too. So the energies, the plasma, and the grid work on Gaia, Earth, or known to the galactics as Terra, has definitely expanded greatly. So the more you pay attention to that cycle existing, the Lion's Gate on 8/8, which kicks off on July 25th, which in the Mayan calendar is a day out of time if you're following the moon cycles as your calendar. Pretty neat, right? And then it goes for a couple weeks after that. You'll get varying degrees of when people say the energy dissipates, but a couple weeks before and a couple weeks after is really a good zone to embody all of those frequencies. So Lionsgate, awesome stuff. Now, for today's subject, I wanted to talk about quantum time. Everything happens simultaneously in the now, and how linear time is a form of existence, but is definitely a bit of an illusion, and that the multiverse and all of reality is not linear at all. It was a construct that was created and a point of attention, okay? So quantum, what do they mean when they say time is quantum, everything happens in the now? What we're saying, and what it is that it's all simultaneously meeting together into a cohesive whole, right? Every single experience that we have, you only have the now to experience it. If you really open up your consciousness and think about it, the point of power is always in the present moment, the galactic now. You can't recreate the past. We can definitely influence and move it and change it. But you did what you did. Things move forward. The future is unwritten, right? But what we're taught is, so what I'm saying is basically everything is morphable. But what we're taught is that it only happens now, okay? The past is a linear timeline going up to that now, and then the future comes in, and it's something that's always going to happen next, right? So there's like little bits of wisdom that are carried in all of that. And now I'm bouncing around a lot because it is a multidimensional topic. But really what we only have is that now is because the past is actually moldable. The future is always unwritten. You don't know where it's going to go, so you can have fresh new beginnings. But all those dimensions, every frequency is meeting right here in the now. The only moment that we ever have. And they're all happening simultaneously. Okay? This linear calendar that we swing around on a yearly basis. If we were to, for example, get off of our linear calendar completely, let it go, okay? And we weren't calculating days of the week and months and all that, but we were following natural cycles, okay? And just sitting with them. Would you honestly know what day of the week it was? Have we been calculating Mondays since time existed? No, we have not. And time and space is a lot more gargantuan and massive and omega than they've ever told us. Earth, this region of the galaxy, the Milky Way, and humanoid existence has been going on for at least 950 billion years. That's an extremely long period of time since the formation from what we are told, right? However, that's still just a linear viewpoint. Every being, myself, you, all the people watching, various beings in the collective, anybody we've interacted with, has different variances of how that time works. They all have their own multidimensional timelines, but let's just take it from a linear perspective. So, I have my linear of how I got from A to B. I'm going to throw it out there. You're having a celebration and you're having a dance party and there's lots of people there. And so I step forward and say, well, that only took a minute for that to transpire, but for you it felt like an hour. Or I've been dancing all night and like time went so quick. We're bending and warping time and moving it on a regular, consistent basis. We are time generators, right? Somebody could be at work at their vocation and the day is going really slow for me, and somebody else that's going really fast. Because all these different time signatures are then fusing into the now and creating infinite linear times. Okay, let's take planetary consciousness. On Earth, the linear time with our calendar. Let's just say we're using that because that's our current agreement, okay? But there's far more happening even when we do that. Earth has its own linear perspective. Mars has its own time signature looking at Earth. Looking at the sun, looking at the solar system. Each planet has its own, and how many planets are there in the universe? At this point, it's infinite, right? Hundreds of trillions of galaxies and stars and planets. Bodies and celestial creations, all having their different viewpoint, all existing right here in the now. Now, we also got to talk about the fact that you can time warp, teleport. So if you can time jump and go to different time signatures, right? And affect something that could possibly happen in the future, they're on different time tracks, but they interact with each other in a multitude of ways. So if we're dealing with all these different timelines and jumping here, so the legend is that we all came from the future back to the past to repair something on Earth on a timeline that was very difficult to locate because things were getting really intense, hence this spiritual awakening and the grand quickening. So if we came from a different point in time, so I leave the body, I've passed away, okay, my incarnation is done, I'm back in the spirit realm, I would like to return to incarnation. So I lay out all of my infinite choices and timelines. I can go anywhere within my ascension parameters, right, of how much work I've done to move up. But let's just say I have access to the third and fifth dimension from the work that I've done. And I look down and I have 950 billion years with infinite timelines all crossing on top, and all these different planets that house life, have biospheres where we can live in them. And I'm looking down at all of them in amazement. And I can go, well, right now I want to jump to, 4,500 AD on Earth. And then some other being comes in and goes, well, I want to be on planet Arcturus because they can access that timeline, and I'm going to go to 1 million XYZ from whatever their calendar is, right? At that point, it's not really quite calculated like that. It's far beyond our comprehension. I'm jumping all over the place. So in this lifetime I was here now, but my current self in that now, in my next lifetime, could come back 700 years before this one, right? And still be continuing from that point forward. So they're all intersecting into that moment. We have to remember that there's also planetary parallel worlds. You have Earth, and then we have parallel Earth. I've spoke about these in different videos. Those are different potential timelines that are occurring, right? And when you incarnate, your oversoul has 144 parts. So they're spread across time and space. You have you right now, another being on Earth that is actually you. You may have interacted with it. Another being of you on parallel Earth. Another portion of you that gets sent into 6 groups of 2. So 6 pairs go from now into the future and into the past, separated perfectly and evenly, about 4,000 years, making up the precession of the equinoxes, right? So it's pretty interesting. Maybe it was a bit different number 6, maybe it's every 2,000 years, like it's mixed with the ages. Yeah, exactly. Every couple thousand years they're spread out. So if you think about how that works, because the precession of the equinox, 26,000 year cycle, and that kind of magical happening occurs to us when we incarnate into our soul, and that this being right here is only one piece of the totality of the whole. pin ourselves into a linear calendar. Now, some beings, myself, have thought or said to me, well, what do you do if you want somebody to come at 8 p.m. to come in because they booked a session? And you want to slot them in and you need a calendar and you can work with your days. Well, we're so used to what we live in, we can't even imagine anything else outside of it. If we weren't chasing the current distorted economic system that we're in, we wouldn't need to be generating infinite amounts of money coming through to then keep up with inflation. So we would have a completely different, when we go quantum and pull back from everything, which includes the quantum financial systems, the authentic real ones, and we re-engage with that, we're not going to need to have mass amounts of calendars slotting people in to all these different time slots. Or if we do, we may only use it for a portion of it. Tomorrow, after the sun rises, I'll take 4 beings before the sun sets, right? And you give yourself a little bit of it. But notice when you pull back from the clock, okay? Making this video, for instance, speaking a workshop in front of people, doing a session. You can still have your clock up there on the wall, but once you pull back and you stop staring at it, like when people learn Reiki, for instance, which I teach multidimensional Reiki classes, they're taught, 3 to 5 minutes per hand position, and then if you multiply that by so many hand positions, you'll get your hour or hour and a half treatment. If you back off and you pull yourself away from concerning with the clock and you just go with the flow and you just feel it in the moment, you almost always end up within 5 minutes of the clock showing you that the session was over. It just works out perfectly as it is. So I think we'll naturally have a lot more tools in our toolkit to make that a reality. Or we may have a non-toxic version of a cell phone. So on those days that we make an arrangement with somebody and then they decide, okay, cool, so I'm going to come in, book a couple sessions, and then I'm going to go attend your workshop and all that, then you can send the signals out to whoever would like to receive these messages. In 3, days from now, we will be having X, Y, and Z takes place. And everybody else in reality can go about their quantum flow, and then these ones can come in for a temporary linear experience, right? So it's really getting our mind to be like less trained to I have to be there at this time and do X, Y, and Z. Now, during the current agreement that we have on planet Earth, it is very important for us to, as much as I don't want to honor that calendar because it is distorted, we do need to honor that to make things function as we slowly integrate it into something else that will be created. Right now we have a whole slew of other things that need to be shifted, so that's going to be less of a priority in this moment, right? But when we can start to dance in those quantum nows, now we're just taking a business approach. But if we back off from all of that and disengage from it and realize that we can just move forward in different ways, then we've freed ourselves from it when it's not coming to business, time and space, of vocations, making schedules, planning people. Because I know if I'm teaching a class, I would sure like people to be there, right? So it's just some things to think about. But when you're going about your day-to-day play, having your fun, going about your own business, going for a walk, doing other things, right? When you back off, you actually have a lot more time than you think you are, unless we're being totally in the Piscean mode of just like flowing to the next and not paying attention to the fact that we are knowingly in our hearts going a little extra overboard because the body will respond, okay? So I just wanted to touch base about a little quick video about quantum time in the now and that how all these things are happening simultaneously, and to bring in those energies, and you actually generate more time by looking at it less linear. So thank you everyone for tuning in today. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. We'll be back for another video soon, and enjoy the summer photonic energies, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.